first, my name's Alan Benenson. I'm one of the principals of Mass Development. We're the developer that's proposing the redevelopment of the golf course. And I first want to thank everybody. It's really incredible to see such a full room. So it's an enthusiastic crowd, and we're really, really happy that actually we do have a full room, because it's really important for us when we bring something for development that we get the opinion, the input of the neighbors. I know it's a very touchy subject sometimes when developers come up here and try to do, redevelop property near your neighborhood. So we're really thankful that you guys are here. We're here tonight to kind of give you an explanation of what we're trying to do. We understand the history of the site. We understand what other people have tried to do on the site. We don't agree with the previous proposals because we don't think they're compatible with the property and with the surrounding neighborhood. So we're kind of proposing something a little bit different that hopefully meets a little bit more to the likings of the neighbors and everybody in the area. So what we're going to try to do tonight is, our land use attorney, Cal Benda, is here to kind of go through the technical portion of what we're trying to do legally. And I'm here to try to answer questions for you guys. We set up a mic in the front. We have a little bit of a limited time usage of the room, so we really would love to have the chance to listen to everybody's comments. I don't know how many people are going to want to come up and speak, ask questions. We're here to answer them. And as a general whole, just to give you the high-level view of what we're trying to do, we're coming in with a plan to redevelop the golf course to a compatible single-family use. No multifamily, nothing vertical, low density, totally compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, lot sizes, size of homes, and pretty much everything to match what's there already. So we're not, the previous plan, we recall reviewing it, had a lot of high intensity uses. We don't agree with that it matches the area. So, our idea is to do single family, detached residential lots, similar in size to the neighborhood, to what you guys, your home sites, and single family homes, maximum of 2 stories. So with that, I'm gonna let Kyle explain a little bit of the technical side, and then I will open the floor to any questions that anybody might have. Thank you again for showing up.
Thank you, Alan. And again, my name is Kyle Benda. I'm an attorney here in Hernando County. And I just wanted to briefly give an overview of what the application is going to be, so that y'all can get a sense of what to expect and maybe ask questions about that, right? So as Alan said, the purpose of this application is to develop single-family homes that are virtually identical to your lots. And that's all that's going to be there. It's just more single-family homes that are similar in size to the homes that you all live in. But the application before the county is what's called a comprehensive plan amendment, right? Usually you'll see applications for rezoning, right? You're changing the zoning to allow a specific kind of use. And with those kinds of applications, you're going to deal with traffic, setbacks, the specific uses that are involved, etc. The application that we're presenting to the county is kind of like a precursor to be able to do that. And that's what a comprehensive plan amendment is. So if you look at the map itself, right, the yellow area that's shaded, right now, based on the original development, for that to be a golf course, it was set up with a future land use of recreational. Right? So the comprehensive plan, the Hernando County Comprehensive Plan, which is called the Hernando County 2040 Comprehensive Plan, is basically the constitution for development in Hernando County. It basically says, by 2040, this is what Hernando County wants the whole county to look like. What uses are going to be where. The 2 uses we're dealing with are residential, right? The residential future land use category allows for residential single-family homes to be in those areas, right? Commercial future land use allows commercial uses. And then there are objectives, guidelines, and policies in the comprehensive plan that kind of color how all of that kind of development is going to be. So, you know, if you've got a more rural community, there's going to be objectives about buffering to kind of have a gradient of uses, so you don't have, you know, 1 acre lots right next to multifamily or commercial uses, right? Here, the future land use currently is recreation. So recreation means that certain kinds of zoning uses can go in that future land use category. So in this case, it would be a golf course, right? A golf course is kind of a recreational use because it's a type of commercial use that deals with that open space. Recreation can allow for passive uses like hiking, right? Hunting, theoretically. Those are the kinds of uses, like four-wheelers, motorbikes, theoretically could be an allowed use in a future land use recreation category. And what we're applying for is to change that recreation future land use to be a residential future land use. If the county approves that decision, then the next step would be to rezone the property to be a single-family residential zoning district, right? And that's where all of the conditions related to setbacks, access points, and all of that is going to be. So, again, it's really, the application that's going before the county is big picture, right? By 2040, do we want this area to have residential homes in it, or do we want it to have these recreation uses, a golf course, hunting, you know, hiking, ATVs, right? I hear a lot of comments, but I can't, it's hard to hear each individual comment. I'll give you a little bit of background, seriously, because there are some of these drainage retention areas where there have been issues where people are literally hunting in drainage retention areas inside of a community. And under Florida law, state statutes, hunting is a protected activity. Hunting, and especially with the most recent constitutional amendment, right? So that's why I say theoretically. It's not really a practical thing, but it is possible. And
Hunting has to be so far away from the residents. No one's hunting. No one legally is hunting.
whoever owns that could hunt on it if they wanted to. You know, there's. Hey, I'm not here to argue with everyone. I just want to be able to present what is being proposed and then open up the floor then to hear comments from everyone. And, you know, I understand there are a lot of comments and it would be, I'd like to hear each of them, you know, instead of all at once. So that being said, you know, we have a podium up here if everyone wants to speak. You know, it's hard to hear from the audience, that's why we kind of need the microphone, but feel free to come up and we can.
Can I make just one request? I know there's a lot of people that want to speak and we want to listen to everybody, so if, you know, we could try to limit the time just so everybody has a chance to speak, because there's a limited time and I do want to have everybody have a chance to speak, so.
Mr. Attorney, I don't remember your name, sorry. Are you familiar with a case called Skyline Woods Homeowners versus Brockemeyer? Oh, you don't need to write it down. I have a copy and I'm willing to hand to you. This is our position. It says, we bought on a golf course, we get a golf course, period.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay, I live in Wellington, which is a gated community. How do you hope to put this in the middle of Wellington and keep us a secure gated community.
So this project will have the access will not be through your community. It
You
will have
can't
its
put it in the
own
middle of
access.
all the rest of these houses. You're gonna put a fence all the way around them?
Yes, ma'am, there will be a fence around the property.
Oh,
The whole point is today. Listen, I request, we're here to try to answer the questions, so I will, if you give me a second, I will answer.
if
So-
this were going to be absorbed into Wellington, I could understand it. Put it in there separately, it invades the whole northwest section of the community.
Yes, it does.
But today, there's a golf course there that's abandoned, and nothing is going on. There's overgrown grass, there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's the possibility of people straggling in their crime or something, getting to the back of the neighborhood. What we're trying to propose is to bring in a low intensity use to match the surrounding neighborhood. The idea is when this development is built, for there to be a protective fence behind, so there's the privacy to the homeowners that have homes on the golf course. And I know not everybody here, their backyard is the golf course, but there are some people here for sure that their backyards face the golf course. Today, the golf course abandoned. So we're looking to, put some sort of barrier, have setbacks from that property line to the home sites, and create a big enough buffer so the homes are not on top of each other. And that's our plan overall, what we're looking to do.
Well, I think you're gonna permanently damage the security of our community.
It was Seven Hills Golf Course for over 20 years. Right? Environmentally, I'm sure you understand there's been tons or gallons of chemicals put onto the ground. Will you be removing that ground and bringing in new ground?
Well, we're conducting an environmental phase 1, and there was a previous environmental phase 1 and some cleanup done that was already approved. But yes, if there's any environmental contamination, we will be required to remediate it 100%.
Okay, now you were just talking about Wellington and putting a fence in the people in Wellington. What about on the other side?
The same applies to those sites.
So there would be a fence. So in other words, that outline would be a fence.
Well, I mean, the idea is that if you have a neighbor back to back, and I would assume that you want to have some privacy and you don't want somebody being able to walk into your backyard, my opinion.
We don't now.
I mean, so
All right, so hopefully if you have an environmental.
guys, please, I mean.
Don't want you.
Fine, I understand, and we're here to listen. So if the neighbors who live on the golf course prefer there not to be a fence, we won't put a fence. And that's why we're here, is to listen to what bothers you or what's a pro or not. And when we work through the plan of the PD and all the approvals with the county, if the neighborhood surrounding us prefers for there not to be a fence, we would gladly not put the fence. And which is why we're here, is to listen to what are the hot topics. And I understand, everybody has a different, buttons, but we want to listen to what people want to say.
Around the community north of us, and there's one that we saw coming here tonight. Are these going to be single homes to be owned by the owner, or are they going to be rental property?
They're going to be fee simple platted lot for sale. We don't have the ability, somebody buys a home like in yours, that somebody wants to rent their home, we can't prohibit that.
But the whole neighborhood?
The whole
the ones
neighborhood is
we've
for
seen
sale. It's for sale.
Individually?
Individually, fee simple platted for sale.
How many?
Hello. I think when Seven Hills was developed, the golf course was part of not the aquifer, but like a huge retention pond to absorb all that overflow. So now, if you're building on that, you're taking away Seven Hills' ability to drain all the water. Look what happened with the Green Swamp and all the people on 50. And everybody's just kind of like, well, it's not our fault, but they're building homes and they've interrupted all of that. You can't say that that's not going to interrupt it. We could be put in danger,
So-
and you will be sued.
So let me address that subject. So part of the approval process, we have to go through Southwest Florida Water Management District, and we got to go through FEMA. we have to design the project to hold a 100-year flood for 24 hours. So part of the design, and we're looking at, you know, the whole frontage, the whole front area that's facing the road where the power lines are and all that area, is that to build, you know, we're gonna have to build enough retention pond to absorb the pre-development, how it is today.
There's already plenty of space. It's the golf course. And BEMA's not gonna exist anymore, so you're gonna have to come up with
That means that if FEMA doesn't exist, we still have to deal with Southwest Florida Water Management
We still have to
District.
deal with the people. And we don't want anything there. We don't want houses. We would prefer a golf course. That's why we bought in there. That's what we were promised. And all the lawyers and all the little other people that run around just collect the money and do what they want. And we're not gonna stand for it. Peace out.
Been coming here since the late 90s. Phase 2, the gardens at Seven Hills. It's on that side of the road. The house backs up to the golf course. Actually, it's one of the tee-off holes. It's built higher up so the water goes down into the house, and it's one of 10 the entire county has. So when you say you're going to replace it, you know, you're talking about that side of the street, building a pond, retention, whatever. There's only 10 in the whole county. You get runoff if your house is behind. Next door to us is a confirmed sinkhole, and there's several on Casa Grande that have been repaired. And I'm sure you can go through the legal records because the house insurance is through the roof if you live on the odd number side of Casa Grande. The biggest reason to stay on that side is your house is worth more because you have all this open space behind it you're not paying taxes on. How are you going to compensate the people that are still there from the 90s? First off, do not even think about putting little kids running back there. Okay, as a security is we don't have a gate. We were promised a golf course where we could go, and it really wasn't outside except for guests of us, the homeowners. So now you're going to let not even a golf course be there. You're taking away the water retention. Okay, yeah, it's a La Nina instead of El Nino, but that place does flood, and it comes down to every homeowner on the odd side of Casa Grande. Every single homeowner on that side, the water comes down back towards their basement. How are you going to fix that for the people that are existing there? You going to wait till they're over 100 and gone? I mean, seriously.
Okay, first,
You have to have a plan, and we would like to know what it is. I'm just being a tiny bit open here.
no, and I appreciate it. I mean, that is what I'm here. So, first, just to know, we have nothing to do with the golf course in the past. We're new, fresh. We don't own the golf course.
Oh, good.
We don't own it.
You're thinking of purchasing it.
We're in contract to purchase the golf course to develop this.
Oh, so there's still time for you to get out. Okay. I'm just worried because I may not always be here, but my mom is always here, and the problem is, what if it's a time that she's alone, and now you've got water running off because it's a heavy storm?
Okay. So,
It's gonna come right in her house.
So, again, part of the process of the engineering and all that is that we have to deal, and we have developments in different parts of Florida, so we deal with the water management district, and we have to design to, today there's what they call pre-development conditions, and then there's the post of what it looks like. We cannot make the property worse than it drains today. So today, when we design with the engineers and the water management district, we need to take the volume of water that's been accumulated in this property on what they call the 100-year flood event for 24 hours. And whatever that number is, we need to design the retention ponds and the storm drainage to accommodate that, to not make it worse.
And some sort of way to not flood these houses that are on tee-off?
We're not allowed to drain to private property. We're too early in the game for that, right now, because this happens more in the engineering phase. But part of the program of the design is to avoid that.
Okay, because all we heard is that they upped the impact fees that a builder would have to pay so they can get more money for the county. And all they do is keep building stuff, so it takes you 5 lights to get across Spring Hill and Mariner. And we don't have a light, by the way. We have no light at the gardens.
I understand.
And the breeze, there are no lights. So we have to cross 2 lanes of our own, come and angle in between, because there's not even there's just a little cutout. Thank God Mom has a Nissan, a tiny one. And then speed like hell to get onto the other side.
Thank you.
It's a traffic nightmare, so please also do a traffic study. If you look at the newspaper, there's somebody dying or in the hospital every single day since December 12th.
Look, what I have to say, I say with a measure of respect, because you're a guy who's a member of a business and you're trying to expand or improve your business, and I can respect that. Okay? But what I want to say, and maybe I'm speaking for some others too, I have a couple stories to tell and making some short remarks. Many years ago, when my parents decided to build a house in Florida, they made 3 separate trips visiting the East Coast and then the West Coast before settling on the idea of Spring Hill. They themselves even mentioned that they had deliberately picked the Seven Hills community because the area was quiet and the neighborhood was surrounded by an attractive golf course. All of us here tonight are here because we're trying to preserve something that becomes less and less common in our modern times here. Our current neighborhood offers most of us some serenity and maybe even a small amount of privacy. Those things are not going to get any better if there are more cars riding through our streets based upon your development. There are many high-density examples all over the country where the number and compression of housing units takes on the appearance of a giant anthill. My guess is that most people don't rush to buy houses like that when you're looking for a home. The irony is there are massive amounts of open land in this county that actually needs residential development and would be much better choices to build sets of new houses. It makes far less sense to shoehorn in what we believe to be a bunch of small dwellings into a modest green area just because there's a difference there's between existing rows of established homes. Just because a developer happens to have funding to change a piece of land doesn't mean that they should. My dad worked very hard for the right to be able to choose where our family wanted to live. He wouldn't have wished for a random business to show up and fundamentally degrade everyone's surroundings. The biggest threat to everyone's way of life that ordinary people experience in the US, and the whole country is upset about this in some different ways, more and more seems to be how aggressive business ventures of a few are somehow given permission to affect the quality of life for so many. For all the people who bought houses that are adjacent to the golf course, they did that for a specific reason. Adding a significant number of new structures, in my humble opinion, is a post-transactional decision that artificially changes the terms that were purchased by the Seven Hills community. I'm encouraged to learn that most land use designs are hardly ever occur in a vacuum. As a lot of us know, the state of Florida recognized that they needed to better understand the area's viability. They commissioned qualified people a while ago to examine and assess the condition of the way the land is formed. That effort produced studies that conclude that this is a known, well-defined sinkhole area. We soon learned, by the way, that these were not just theoretical reports. Around 12 years or so ago, a neighbor on my own block, a relatively short distance, maybe 5 to 6 driveways away, suffered the opening of a large subterranean sinkhole directly under their home. I remember that it seemed like there were crews there for over 3.5 weeks working on the property. I'm no construction engineer, and I remember being amazed that there was a need to have cement trucks filling gaps underground and around the house for several days. The property was cordoned off with tape, and this crew of engineers and construction specialists were there for a very long time. I can't imagine the cost for all those experts that must have been needed to stabilize that house. Also, please keep in mind, even after any new sinkhole in our subdivision gets mitigated, it will become part of the real estate data and could indirectly reduce our property values. My guess is that if a big enough sinkhole was discovered after the land was altered by you or anyone else, it's likely that some of the homeowners, as some folks have kind of mentioned before, might decide they want restitution of what might be interpreted as an avoidable event. I would appeal to you that any modest tax revenue increase is not worth the risk. I'm kind of wondering why I don't know who they all are, but I don't see any town council members here tonight, which is kind of strange to me. It's interesting. My guess is, I would appeal to you that any modest tax revenue isn't worth the risk. It seems reasonable to ask the question, might it be better to choose a less risky path than after the fact being forced to seek remedies and react to any future expensive crisis? This is an opportunity to do that. In closing, I just want to say that I'm here tonight to lobby my government, even though most of them aren't here apparently, to prevent an incorporated third party from ruining our neighborhood. It's also no secret that the area has an existing insurance crisis in the area, and even though most of us or all of us are safely distant from the Gulf flood zone, many of us have had to jump through hoops to get insurance coverage. A decision to fundamentally disturb the land in this area will clearly create even more coverage risk. Our hope is that the development of this town is guided by folks in a way that has a positive effect on the quality of all of our lives. Thank you.
Let me answer this one thing. I guess for everybody to know, tonight's event is just an informational neighborhood meeting, and nobody from the council is allowed to be here. So this is just...
What I wonder if it's like a survey of all the arguments we might make so that it can be counted. That's what I'm wondering about.
Well, the point of the meeting tonight is, for us that we're looking to develop property, to listen to the concerns. That's the utmost first, requirement of this meeting and all that stuff.
Permits are just a process that you go through as you.
Yeah, but we're here, and I do. Look, we are here, and I am listening. I mean, and I want to mention one thing regarding the sinkholes that you mentioned and all that. Part of our due diligence process, part of the stuff that we do, we hire a geotechnical engineer, and we do a lot of borings. We had a project in Ocala that had sinkhole potential, and we have to mitigate and deal with that pre-development. So yes, if by any chance in this process we find that 80% of the land has sinkhole, well, I'm not going to buy it either because I have no intention to develop there. But we do look and mitigate those potentials early on to see if those situations might be a problem for us.
Again, our understanding is that the state of Florida objectively already discovered and determined that there was a significant number of risk of sinkholes.
I'll bring my cat to you and show you. My house has been sinkhole repaired, and the whole road in front of my house, is sinkhole repaired.
Mike, you let her have the mic.
Thank you.
Mike, because it is definitely filled with sinkholes.
Who's had a sinkhole repair? Raise your hand.
I don't think the lawyer knew that.
That's been my concern, and what I understood is that Hernando County set aside certain wilderness areas, and that was one of them, never to be disturbed. Now, I could have it wrong, but that's how I understand, and it was to reduce sinkholes, because the area, quote unquote, was riddled with them, which we know that may or may not be true anymore, but we gotta go with what's on paper.
I appreciate that, and we're going to look into it because obviously, if we have an issue that we haven't uncovered, we'd love to know about it. But thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Kevin. My wife and I moved here about 3 years ago from Pasco County. Not a far move, but we didn't like all the construction that was going on there, all the traffic and such that was being caused, so we moved to Hernando County. Sometimes I think we didn't move far enough.
Use the mic.
Couple of questions, because We both work for Pasco County, and I work in the
You need talking to
planning.
Mike, sir, no, get to the point.
I didn't know I was such a celebrity. Okay, so my wife and I both work for Pasco County. She works with contractor licensing. I work in the planning department. So I'm familiar with geotechnical studies and the stormwater surveys that'll be done and such. But my main concern is actually regarding the density. What kind of, I'm familiar with Pasco County zoning and Res 1, 2, 3. I'm not familiar with Hernando. So what kind of density would we be looking at for this?
Well, we're doing low density. I don't know top of my head right now the number, but I have here our preliminary site plans that we started to do on the Wellington side portion. We're looking roughly around 70 single-family homes. And about 90 homes on the other side. So about 160 homes.
Have you thought of a minimum? Have you thought of a minimum lot size?
I mean, we're trying to conform to the same lot sizes that the neighborhood has in Wellington and the other neighborhood.
Okay.
So we're not looking for smaller lots. We're not looking for smaller pads. We're not looking for a lower setbacks, lower buffers.
Okay.
We're going in with the exact same compatible use of the existing neighborhood. That's our plan.
Good. My other concern is access. Again, working for Pasco County, I don't know how many people here know, probably not many, but if you were to drive on the other side of County Line Road, diagonally across from Farnsworth, which is our secondary access to our community, I live at that end, so I use it all the time. Pasco County just approved 770 single-family homes on the other side of County Line Road and 20,000 square feet of commercial. So, in my opinion, it's not going to be feasible to make a left out of Farnsworth anymore. Once those homes come in and we add 1,000 cars. I'm sure you're probably going to or be required to do a traffic study, right?
That's correct. We have to do a traffic
Okay,
methodology study first and then a full traffic impact analysis.
Excellent, because this is going to be pretty much our main access.
That we must do.
Right, okay.
And part of that study is, if there's any improvements or any turn lanes or anything that the county deems necessary, that we will be held to responsible of doing those.
Right, excellent. That's what we do in Pasco County as well. There are always conditions of approval. Last thing, I don't know if you've walked the property, but I have myself gone behind, like where the turning circle is there. If you were to go north into where that semicircle is, that was part of the golf course, obviously. If you look towards the entrance, kind of southwest, there's a tremendous change in elevation. And I believe that's what this other lady was concerned about, was that I believe that was partially intended to be a retention area. I have not looked up the Swift Mud ERP, but I think that's part of the retention for our community. So I wouldn't want that to be disturbed. And again, I live on the other side, so this does not directly, affect my home per se. But, you have to understand, the passion that's here is because a lot of these people are from Wellington. Wellington is a 55 and older community, as you know, and I only moved here 3 years ago. I'm only 60 years old, so I'm one of the younger of my neighbors. And I can tell you right now, I don't know if my front door is locked. I have no idea. I don't wake up in the middle of the night to check if my car is locked. It's a very secure community. And it's a very attractive community. I think it's very well kept. And we have nothing against kids, but I've lived in communities and I have kids, and you can't have a community like ours when you have kids running around. It would really disturb the whole community if they were to be intermingled. So I just wanted to share that with you, because it is a different lifestyle.
Understood, thank you.
My name is Vicki Chalberg. I live on the Seven Hills side on the golf course at the end of what would have been, when it was running, the end of the hole 1, which is now, I don't know what the hole is now after they switched it. The only thing I want to say is I don't think any of this should be developed. And I go back to when it was sold to the guy that bought it. There were a lot of other people that were bidding on it, and he won the bid. but he didn't want to develop it even though it was sold as a golf course. It is my firm conviction that the court should make him, or somehow or other through the legal proceedings, that they make him put it back up for sale and somebody buys it. I know 2 or 3 people that wanted to buy it to develop it as a golf course. And why don't they just sell it back as a golf course, which is what it was supposed to be, with the water, with everything. People know what the problems are, and that has nothing to do with trying to negate this, but nobody wants houses in the middle of where they live. I don't care what size they are, I don't care where they are, it was all not developed that way. And I think that everybody else here wants to do
How you doing? My name is Neil Johnson, moved from New York about 2.5, 3 years ago. My taxes have gone up in Hernando County at my home. The previous owner owned it as the original owner for 15 years, paid $1,200 a year. My taxes are now $4,000 a year. My questions are really about the development of the property and who's going to pay for all the infrastructure changes that will be required. Who's going to pay for water to be put in there? Who's going to pay for sewers? Who's going to pay for electric? Who's going to pay to build a new school for these new children that are going to be going to schools in the area when the school is overrun now on Quality Drive? Drop-off lines are as long as going on to Farnsworth. There's not enough traffic there. The traffic for Quality Drive is constantly blocked in morning and evening, both directions, all the way on to Farnsworth and all the way up to Medical Boulevard. There is not enough busing to get these kids to schools. There's not enough schools in the area to go and warrant additional building of homes for single-family users who do have children that need to go to school. This is kind of ridiculous. In addition, you have pavement going down everywhere. Hernando County is being overdeveloped. Recharge zones are disappearing. Your water is going to be drained out through sewage systems that are installed into other areas, and no recharge to be put in the ground now. Hernando County is limiting our people in the Wellington right now to water once a week, and it's going to go down even further. Sinkholes are created when water is drawn out of the ground, aquifers are drawn empty, and/or underground water sources, and then they sink. The land cannot be supported if water is not under it to support the land above it. That's how this system works. That's what aquifers do. Sinkholes are everywhere in this area. Sinkholes are up and down County Line Road. Sinkholes are in the Wellington development. My neighbor had a repaired sinkhole with hundreds of pounds or liters, whatever you want to call it, of cement pumped in under her home. And many homes in the Wellington, if you look at the deeds, show that there were sinkholes in that development already. Many of the properties around this area have sinkholes under them, caused by overdevelopment and drawing of additional water out of the grounds that is not being replaced. Pavement does not allow recharge of rainwaters going into the ground, and droughts are becoming a more serious situation in this area. It's not only just storms to add water. These 100-year storms are not only 100-year. Now there are 500-year storms that are occurring on a regular basis. Water is not being recharged. We have a serious problem in this area. Home ownership is getting more and more expensive. Insurance companies are refusing people to get insurance or raising their rates. My insurance went from roughly $700 a year up to $4,000 a year. The insurance rates are expanding, and it's going to be even more expensive to live in this community. It's to a point where people are going to leave Florida. You have houses all being developed on County Line Road for a year and a half already, and they're still not all sold. They have people on the road trying to lose signs and put up signs, trying to get people to buy because some of the homes are still sitting open. Overdevelopment is a problem in this neighborhood and in this county, including in Pasco County.
Yes.
My name is Jane Zeltner, and I live on Henderson Street. And I've played golf on that course for a number of years until they closed it up. And on most of the holes, you could stand in your yard and throw a ball across to the people that live across from you, number one. Number two, there's drainage retention ponds on numerous places in there. And what are you gonna do with retention ponds if you put dirt in them? The whole thing just doesn't make sense to me. There's not enough room to put houses on the golf course there's no way to get access to them. There's no road. You put a house in between where I am living and across from me, how are they gonna get to their house? So there just isn't enough room to do what I think you'd like to do. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sandra Apone, and my question is for our county attorney. Most of us here were gathered here in March of 2024, where we went in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And the result of that meeting was they refused to change the comprehensive plan, therefore would not rezone the area. Now my question to you, sir, is that by your attendance here, does that mean that the Planning and Zoning Commission has changed their mind and they will change the comprehensive plan?
I don't work for the county. I'm a private attorney representing the developer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No one from the county is here. This is,
all right.
This process is required by the county, but it's not. It's just the developer explaining to the community and allowing the community to comment, try to work through some of these issues that y'all are bringing up.
That's what happened last March. So we don't know why we're going through this again unless something has changed. Why would you go through all this expense and put 1,000 people?
Part of the process for us to do what we're doing, because we're new to the process, we're not the previous developer, we don't know what their intentions were besides seeing the plans and the site plans that they did that was high intensity, vertical, multifamily, all kinds of stuff that is not compatible, which we don't agree with. But besides that, we're fresh and we're new. And part of the process is that we need to make ourselves available to listen to you guys, which is why we're here. A couple of things that people mentioned, I want to try to get everybody to speak, but it's 6 and we're gonna lose the room and I see a long line, so I want to try to, hopefully there's new comments, if you guys can make it quick, so to give everybody a chance to say something. What we're willing to do, and we've talked about, is that, again, we're trying to come in with the same compatible use. If there are concerns that, they're coming with this use and maybe they're gonna do something else, we've spoken to the county that we're prepared to do deed restrictions on the property so nobody could ever build a 3-story multifamily in your backyard. That I'm not coming in, selling it to somebody else, and then they could do something that you don't want there. So there's certain restrictions that we could put in to make people, in the community more comfortable. If there are certain concerns like those, like we don't want to see a 3-story multifamily rental development behind me, we would deed restrict stuff like that. So we're prepared to work and listen and try to put in those safety guards for people not to think that we're coming in with something and then something else is going to happen.
But I just want you to know, if you don't already know, which I'm sure you do know, that it wasn't the plans of the development, it was the changing of the comprehensive plan that they refused to change. Now they said, if the county commissioners want to change it, then you have to go in front of the county commissioners. So it doesn't really matter what their plans are, it's the comprehensive plan, and we believe that it should stay the way it is.
Understood.
Hello, my name is Bob Hartman. I want to thank you for bringing us to this beautiful venue. The last one we went to was really bad. Okay, do you folks know where the maintenance shed is for this area, the golf course? Do you know where it is? Okay. Do you know how many wells are at that maintenance shed?
I don't know the number well, but obviously the intention is, I mean, we have to cap wells, we have to remove all these structures and clear it all out.
There's two 500-foot wells, 10-inch steel casings. One of the wells does not have a head on it. You could dump cyanide down there, you could dump a baby down there, you could do anything you want. Swift Mud has been notified, they have not done anything. There were hundreds of pounds of fertilizer just leached into the ground. The bags collapsed. There were 55-gallon drums of chemicals back there, not labeled, and they're full. There's a man here, there's a man I know who said it would cost at least $1.5 million to clean up that maintenance shed. You're gonna have to dig out that dirt, you're gonna have to put it in 55-gallon drums, and you're gonna have to haul it out. Are you prepared to do that?
Look, what I can tell you is that we're not there, we're doing the environmental phase 1 and all that. Like I said before, we don't own the property yet, so whatever history has happened on that property with anything, but part of our process is to do all this analysis. If we find that that analysis makes, doesn't merit what we're trying to do, then, we make a decision. But right now, I
They
think
did the boring on the golf course. They did not bore at the maintenance shed. So you guys have no idea what you're getting into.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cindy Landers, and I'm going to just mention to you that I understand that you're here, and I admire you for taking this bold step towards developing the golf course. Number one, coming in like that, I personally say that I have the really great honor of serving on the advisory board for the YMCA here. And so I have some experience having gone through the, I can't remember what it's called, but the development process for this big retirement, this assisted living community that's going in next door. And it was quite a big, it's been going on for over a year now. And it's been taking quite a bit of time. They're having a lot of struggle just getting the ground right. A lot of struggle, but it took a long time for them just to do the assessment of the wildlife. And that's one thing I'm quite concerned about, because we have a lot of protected species that have settled into that area since it hasn't been being used. And we could probably do without the coyotes, but there are a lot of other things in there, like gopher turtles, and I know y'all can name some other ones. Owls. Yeah, that we don't want to see harmed, and you're going to have to, as you're well aware, have them all moved to one of these protected areas so that they can have a new home. That there is going to be quite, I don't know how many acres that is, but it's a lot bigger than what was just developed on the other side of the road. Now, let me also mention that even though those people aren't all going to be driving that just moved into that area, they're using the same stoplight that all of us are using. And that is really going to become a nightmare on Henderson and Mariner. I mean, that's the worst stoplight around. There's wrecks there almost every day. Really. And it's becoming a terrible situation. But the other thing that I wanted to mention, in mentioning that, the reason I brought it up is because they came in with a really great offer. In exchange for developing that property, they offered the YMCA and others they built new locker rooms. They agreed to help us with some development issues that we needed to add more that we could offer to the community. So some of the people asked me to ask you, what's in it for us if we agree? And I mean, we're not planning, really, we don't want to agree, but if there was a muted form of some kind of development, even adjusted form, if you came back and said, hey, we've come back with something different we want you to look at, Are you willing to provide tennis courts or pickleball or? Never mind, they don't want to know what's in it for anybody, but I'm putting it out there. If, you can't even come to the table and ask for something without saying, we're gonna do this for you, we're gonna do that for you. To just come say we're gonna come in and take is not good.
Thank you.
My name is Joe Prattle. I'm representing the Seven Hills Homeowners Association. There are 10 county-owned drainage retention areas on the golf course. All of the stormwater runoff from Mariner Boulevard funnels into the golf course. There's stormwater drains throughout this area. There are sinkholes in at least 3 different places. You have a 100-foot dip in the ground in one other area. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I really don't know how you could think you're gonna make any money developing this property. But to keep my comments short, all of you who are not in favor of changing the comprehensive plan, please stand up.
Are you kidding me?
Just for time consciousness, we have about 15 minutes left in the room, so try to get everybody if we can. Thanks.
My name is Patricia Dean. I sort of feel like I don't have a right to really speak to this, but because I'm a newbie here, been here about 2 years, so a lot of this started happening probably maybe before. However, I live on Muscovy Drive. My backyard backs up to Mariner, right across from the Y. This is going to be a disaster for the traffic. I'm always hearing the sirens and the crashes. Can't go out my backyard without hearing a bang up or something. It's a disaster traffic-wise. And it's going to be so bad, especially after they do the development next to the Y. It's going to get even worse with ambulances and so on and so forth. Now, I have heard everyone address this so far, as well as the water issues, and that is going to be pretty difficult to get around. I also have a problem with developing apartment complexes or multifamily dwellings like it has been talked about. I don't know if I got here a little late. Anyway, I personally, as a newbie here in Florida, and I'm a Floridian now, I love my neighbors, I love Florida, I love my area. And anyway, I just want to say that I'm totally opposed to this, totally opposed. And I want to congratulate so many that have come out here. This is amazing. I've lived in areas where this kind of thing went on before, and you guys are amazing. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nick Huffington. I live in the gardens at Seven Hills. And my home backs up to what used to be one of the fairways. On the other side of the fairway is Audi Brook Drive. And those houses are literally a stone's throw from my house. So on the top of your project area, I see that there's this little sliver, this panhandle. And I would like to know why the rest of that area is not included in your plan.
That the owner of the property is retaining that parcel for himself for future retail commercial development. That little sliver will be just an entrance road.
So that little sliver's going to be, and
Just
you're
an
going to
entrance.
have it on the Audi Brook side of that property?
Where you see the yellow is the entrance road.
Okay,
They're not selling to us the yellow piece.
Okay, so if I remember correctly, you said 70 homes on one side and 90 on the other side. Let's assume for a minute that the worst happens and this comes to fruition. How long is it going to take you guys from start to finish to destroy our lives in dust and dirt and confusion and construction and the like. How long is your project going to take?
I mean,
Any idea
I
at all?
don't think we would call it that we're destructing your life, but I hear you. But
Definitely decreasing property value.
probably, I would say it's probably about a 2.5-year project, 2-year project.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Crivelli, and I live at the Greens, which is across the street. It's on the Seven Hills side. I live on what would be the first green and then the second tee box, which is on a big berm. So there's a whole change in elevation there. And then I'd like you to turn around and look at your project area just for a second. I see nothing but houses. You're taking away our green space. We need green space. We're human beings. We breathe oxygen. We need to have development where we can have grass, where we can have trees, where we can have animals, where the birds can be. This isn't fair for you to just look at every single plot is taken by a home and you want to take even more. I think it's dreadful and irresponsible.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Thompson, and I'm one of the lucky people that get to live in your project area. In fact, a lot of my neighbors are here now. And our house is back right up to the golf course. So my question is, I taught school for 27 years, lots of kids. So when I retired, coming to a 55 and up community was perfect. I didn't want a bunch of kids. I didn't like to see my grandchildren. I go see them, they don't come see me. But my question is, so this is going to be for single families with children?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's gonna be wonderful, because then we're gonna have all the noise. Are you gonna have a swimming pool?
No, there's no community swimming.
So then these kids are gonna escape from their parents and come to us. So, I mean, I know that this is something that you probably were not prepared for. I don't know. We've been through this a year ago, and I don't think we want to do this again.
No.
My name's Ken Chmielewski, I live on Valley Falls Loop. I don't see how you can say that this is compatible with our neighborhoods. I mean, you've got all these people that have 1,000 homes or whatever bought in Wellington alone, and you're gonna take the green space away. How many houses are gonna be on each side again, sir?
90 and 70.
70 over here?
70 and 90,
Okay.
the initial plan, I mean, we're too early into that, but that's a rough number.
Okay, and how large will these homes be?
These lots are gonna be about the same size, 50, 55 by 120.
Square footage on the homes?
The lot size, the square footage of the home, I would say they range from 2,000 to 3,000 square feet.
Ingress and exit, in and out, how to get in and out, ingress and exit.
Where's the egress and exit?
Ingress and egress, how to get in and out of these places. Where's gonna be the entrance for the one on the right, on Wellington?
On Wellington, it's gonna be somewhere in that frontage that you see there facing Mariner Boulevard. I mean, that's gonna be the determination by the county and as to where the distance needs to be.
And what are the setbacks, the ones that are going to abut the other homes that are up?
I mean, the setback from the rear setback will probably be around 20 feet from the back, which is about the same setback that the homes right now have to the property line. So at the end of the day, you'll probably have 40 feet between each home from the backyards.
Okay, I'm just gonna say, I'm a retired real estate appraiser. And I'm sure as most people know here, I can tell you right now, as soon as that's done, every one of those houses that are built and are going to abut the properties that are already built, those people that own now, your property values are going down. No doubt. No doubt about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So he took some of my question about the setbacks. So I just want to make you aware, and you probably are, that the houses on Casa Grande over on the left, The distance between the back of my house, the lanai, is 12 inches from the property that you have outlined there in red. So, we looked at the property on the Fernando County map, and when I looked at my property line, because I'm very concerned about this, it's 12 inches.
How could that be?
So when you talk about setbacks, you might want to put that in consideration, in that if you put up a fence, is that going to be a few feet from my actual house? That's my concern.
Appreciate you standing here and taking this up. It's tough. I know it's a workshop, okay? You're not here to get beat up. Point is, the people aren't happy. So we need to address what's here. The best thing that any of us can do is your Hernando County Board has to be addressed, folks. It has to be stopped. That's how you can do it. You talk to them. That's how it gets changed. You know, they're listening to us, what we have to say, our dislikes. They may revise some things as they try to adapt to it. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. But we have to deal with the Hernando County Board of Commissioners. Now, over to the right-hand side, we have a red light right now coming straight out of off of Wexford and Fairchild. If you go down further, without a red light, I mean, you sit there without that red light, you'll never turn in or turn out. Let's be fine. Let's be really fair. Number two is the project area. When I look at the width, you've got the driving range, you've got hole 1 and hole 2. There's massive elevation changes up there, huge. You know, if you try to counter something, my concern is if this adaptation goes through, folks, not saying it is, if it goes through, you will never stop the development of holes 3, 4, and 5 that comes out on the other side of the Wellington house, because you'll set the precedence of that being developed, because somebody else owns that and wants to sell it too. It'll automatically allow that to happen.
I'm Al Schaefer. I live in Links at Seven Hills. That's the land to the left of the parcel that you have to the west. When you say, what is the yield that you were saying was going to go into that spot?
Well, into the property on the west, initial site plan roughly around 90 single-family homes.
Okay. When you say it's comparable to the other lots, look at the lots on the left. You can't get 90 of those size lots into that space. So it's not comparable to the Seven Hills side. So I just want to make that clear. And secondly, I'm on the impression or in the understanding that the original developer had to set aside 150 acres to mitigate sinkholes in the area, which became the golf course. Have you done any studies saying that, proving that it's not needed any longer?
No, like I mentioned before, we haven't done our geotechnical borings yet because we wanted to first come here and listen to what people have to say. But that's, you know, part of our process is to look at that. I mean, that is something important. We know about it. We've developed in Ocala, there's sinkholes. We know that there is that potential. But of course, you know, there's
deemed by the state that it's necessary for them.
I mean, we're gonna look into that, and that's really information that I was not aware of. And I appreciate, you know, you guys bringing it up, and that's something that we're gonna look into to see if there is an issue that we're not aware of.
And then, I can't think of it.
That's other people with us.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I'm Jim. I live on Rio Vista, which is the first entrance on the west side, the second house in. You're telling me I need to stay 2.5 years from your dust and trucks. What are you going to do to stop that from coming in my yard? Because my yard, my pool screen is 12 feet from the golf course line. And that's where they've been. So there's 10 houses along that strip right there that you're going to put houses on. And the last
recommendation was to start at the first house at the third house, because there's not enough room between. Besides the dust, I already listened to bingo, the football games, the music, and everything from the golf course clubhouse. Now you want me to listen for 2.5 years, your construction trucks going in and out right behind my house, where all the dust is going to be along that first strip of the 10 houses there. And that's going to be for 2.5 years. Who's going to clean my pool every day to get all the dust out? And everything is going to be out over my plants.
So, I mean, I could address in high level. Part of the requirement of development is, we have to have a pollution control plan, which requires silt fence around the whole property, and it requires hosing down and wetting the area. So there are mitigation plans to try to avoid that or mitigate that.
As a developer, wouldn't it be beneficial to put a table model somewhere, laid out properly, streets and the miniature houses, so people can come in and digest what you're trying to do? By just looking at this, total confusion. If you had a model here like they do at other big corporations, then you see what we're getting.
Thank you. This is the last question because we have to finish the evening.
It'll be quick. Bobby Mattia, my husband and I have been here for 10 years. Okay, I want to know how many acres we're talking about on either side. Does anybody know?
Roughly about 20 acres on each side.
Okay, 20 acres on each side. Okay. I flunked kindergarten arithmetic. I'm assuming I flunked kindergarten arithmetic 101. So, you say it's going to be low density. If you put 70 units on this side and 90 on the other.
I mean, it's coming out to the density roughly around 3.4 units per acre.
Okay, all right. And what style are the structures going to be? Do you have any?
We're not there yet.
Okay, I don't want those cement block units that are on county line. That's negative. Okay, and the kind of fence you're talking about, are you talking about an 8-foot, and I don't know what that white fence is, or are you talking about?
We're not there yet at that point, but when we get to that point, for us it'd be important to, especially the people that are on their backyards to the golf course, to have input of what they would prefer.
Okay.
But we're really far away from that at this point. We're still at the beginning stage.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for coming. I appreciate you guys' time, and have a good evening.
Thank you.